An Erios original.
Hello, and welcome to Web Crawlers, a podcast where we do a deep dive into some of our favorite mysteries. Each week, we will introduce our topic, lay out our research and findings, and reveal some conspiracy theories, and conclude with our own hypothesis. Interesting how I kind of just screwed that up. I'm Allie Siegel.
I am Melissa Stettin.
And we have very special guest host today, Cassidy Routh like South. Hi, Cassidy.
Hello.
And we have to, this is the second time we are recording this episode because Melissa and I fucked up big time. So thank you for coming back again.
Mom brain.
Melissa, do we have any new patrons today?
Oh, shit. Yes. Let me see. Caitlin and Shannon.
Caitlin and Shannon, welcome to the team. We're so glad to have you here. Cassidy, we are so excited to have you back. I was telling you when you did your episode the first time, I literally was texting Melissa and Maria and my boyfriend and my parents being like, this is so interesting. I cannot believe I didn't know this already. Like, everyone should know this. So, Cassidy, we are handing over the reins to you.
We.
I know. I forgot you're here again.
Cool.
I just slipped back into solo mode again. Cassidy, what is your episode about today?
Hi. My episode today is about a couple things. The first one is something I think most people do know about, but maybe not like as in gory detail as I'm about to give it. It's the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which a lot of people learned about in school. But there's a person who witnessed that fire who ends up being like a very important historical figure, yet most people don't know her name. So we're going to talk about her as well.
Crazy.
And her legacy. But to start, here's a horrible story about a horrible fire.
Yes.
Great.
The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory occupied the top 3 floors of a 10-story building off Washington Square Park in New York City. On these 3 floors, they made shirtwaists, which are a type of collared button-down shirt that were made for women. The building itself, now owned by NYU, was built in 1901 and advertised as fireproof. So basically, this is like the Titanic of workplace tragedies.
It's the
like
unsinkable
fires.
ship.
Yeah, they're like, nothing bad can happen here.
I watched the Titanic last night.
First time?
No, like 30th time.
Okay, good.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's really good. Yeah. But yeah, the fireproof building is, spoiler alert, not fireproof.
God, not fireproof.
Hundreds of workers were crammed into these 3 floors with little ventilation. Most of them were young women from the ages of 14 to 23 and new to America. Most were Italian and Jewish immigrants. Women and children were among the most vulnerable workers at this time, often required to work from sunup to sundown and to bring their work home with them. They made around $7 to $12 a week, which would approximately be like between $200 and like $375 a week today. So not
so
great. Like working crazy hours and getting paid nothing.
Yeah.
Well, not nothing, but basically nothing.
Well, yeah. And then what we'll soon see is like horrible conditions as well.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that there were like hundreds of people crammed into these floors, like 3 floors of a building.
Yeah.
It's crazy. On Saturday, March 25th, 1911, at around 4:40 p.m., some workers on the 8th floor noticed a faint glow in a trash can full of fabric scraps. It was never conclusively determined, but people speculate that it was either a match or a cigarette that someone had thrown into the bin and just like not thought about it. So it was just a complete accident. Yeah, complete accident, trash fire. Garment patterns, those like tissue paper templates that you cut out to like make, those were like hanging up above the fire, above everyone, and the flames would reach up and ignite those. Then there were fabric scraps that had carpeted the floor of the work area, and huge swaths of material hung from lines above their heads so they could just pull down material
Just
and cut as it
flammable
goes.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere,
Crazy.
everything. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's really sad.
No, it's just
It's
insane.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah, the embers from the tissue paper templates scattered around the room, landing on the piles and the sheets of fabric, igniting those as well. So,
God.
like,
Jesus.
just little pieces of embers went everywhere and just coated the building.
It's like what you would use to start a fire.
Yeah, like
Everything's what's in this place.
if they wanted it to catch on fire, they could not have done a better job.
Yeah,
But I don't think that they
crazy.
wanted it to catch on fire. Within seconds, this went from a very small trash fire to engulfing the entire 8th floor. A bookkeeper called up to the 10th floor to tell them about the fire, but this only gave them about a few extra seconds, really, to evacuate. There was no fire alarm or a way to alert the workers on the 9th floor.
No fire alarm.
No fire alarm. So the 9th floor workers only learned there was a fire because smoke and flames arrived on their floor.
Jesus.
One of the 2 staircases had been locked to prevent theft by workers, which is just
come
gross.
on.
Like where the people are not taking fabric home. Like
No,
you can
scraps
tell.
of fabric.
Also, it says the first fire alarm system was invented in 1852. So fire alarms had already been invented. Obviously, I'm sure that they
They
weren't.
had plenty of time.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
sure
just don't think they
weren't
were legally
mandatory.
required. Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
It's just cutting corners
Yeah,
everywhere they can, which not good.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, one of the 2 staircases was locked, and the foreman who locked that staircase was actually there, and he had the only key, and he left. So he just left with the locked door, just ran outside. He got out fine.
Good for him.
Oh my
Not the same for a lot of people.
Jesus.
Some people got out through the unlocked staircase, but it was very quickly blocked by fire. Because they couldn't go down, many chose to climb up, which in my mind is like, you can't do that. Like you watch a horror film and they go upstairs and you're like, why are you going upstairs?
Yeah. Always go down. Unless you're on the Titanic.
Yeah.
Most of the people who fled to the roof survived.
Whoa.
So it actually like was the right move.
I would think
I
that
just
that's
think
the
that's
right
weird.
move. That's what I would do if there was a fire.
Well, you would survive and Melissa and I would not.
I would die.
That makes sense
We
to
would
me.
just be like,
Flames rise.
gotta go through these staircases. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have the right instincts for that. There were also 2 freight elevators, which 2 brave operators took up and down 3 times to fill with workers and help them escape. They would have kept going, but both of those elevators became unusable after their 3rd trips.
God.
There was also an external fire escape, but it was flimsy and in terrible condition. It didn't go all the way to the ground, and with about 20 people on it, it twisted and peeled away from the building. Those who didn't fall off held on to
God.
what was left of the fire escape, but with nowhere to go, were developed by smoke and flames.
Oh,
So, like,
horrific.
Which is
Jeez.
worse, like falling to your death or like holding on and just being burned alive? Like,
Oh.
And that has to be one of the worst ways to die, I think, is being burned alive. I mean,
Yeah.
it has
Yeah.
to be like
Yeah.
so
and like
slow
in the
and
sky,
painful.
like you're not only being burned alive, but you're also like at a terrifying height. Like it's
Yeah.
just the worst case
Oh, it's
scenario.
horrific.
It's gonna keep getting a little bit more horrific, but then we get to go into a
Cool.
sweet little history lesson. This is just like I
Then
had to make
gets
it
inspiring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be inspiring after this part. The fire department was on scene within minutes, but the ladders they had only extended to the 6th floor. If you remember, the fire was on the
God.
8th floor and went up, so they were 2 floors too low with the fire trucks.
That's insane.
Yeah. A witness, Louis Waldman, described the scene. And I'm going to read exactly how he either said it or wrote it. It is beautiful prose, and I would love to read anything this man wrote, but it's like horrible, but
Yeah.
you'll hear. The police had thrown up a cordon around the area, and the firemen were helplessly fighting the blaze. Horrified and helpless, the crowds looked up at the burning building, saw girl after girl appear at the reddened windows, pause for a terrified moment, and then leap to the pavement below. This went on for what seemed a ghastly eternity. Occasionally, a girl who had hesitated too long was licked by pursuing flames and, screaming with clothing and hair ablaze, plunged like a living torch to the street.
Oh man.
Wow.
Wow. God,
It's
how
like-
descriptive.
so descriptive, so horrifying.
Yeah, beautiful.
But yeah, I like wish I talked like that.
Stated. Yeah.
Yeah. Another witness, Frances Perkins, remarked the men were trying to put up a net to catch people, but the weight of the bodies was so great and the speed at which they were traveling, they broke through the net, they hit the sidewalk.
Oh,
Just doing everything wrong.
Every single thing that could go wrong went wrong.
yes, thing after thing. Oh.
And we'll come back to Frances in a moment, and that'll be when we're not talking about sad stuff anymore. 146 people died. 123 of which were young women and girls, and 62 were people who jumped to their death.
My God.
For a little levity, there was one man, Hyman Meschel, who was 21 years old, who survived. He smashed a glass window to get into the elevator shaft, where he slid down the cables to the basement, like a fire pole, but really hot cables that like ripped through the flesh on his hands, but he got down. He then waited in the basement, but the basement was filling with water from the fire trucks that were just shooting water at the building, and it just all went down into the basement. So they found him a few hours later, almost entirely submerged in the basement. It's crazy that he survived. Yeah.
Oh my God.
The company's owners, Max Blank and Isaac Harris, who were actually there, which surprised me. I feel like most company owners spend time like not at the building. They survived by escaping to the roof. And they were charged with manslaughter, but they were found not guilty by a jury. Later, a civil suit was brought against them, and they were ordered to pay $75 to each victim, which would be about $2,000 today.
Interesting. If you think about it, I'm sure at that time, minorities couldn't serve on juries. I'm not sure, but I have to think I'd have to look into that. And this was a minority population who are all working at the shirtwaist factory, and women. So I'm sure that the jury didn't have a lot.
The all-white male jury was capitalism's more important than the workers.
Right.
Yeah. Max Blank, one of the owners, was later arrested for knowingly locking another stairwell during working hours at a different factory. So he just didn't learn anything.
This guy loves locking doors.
Imagine not learning your lesson after that. Yeah.
He just loves it. He can't get enough.
Maybe it's OCD.
Maybe we're actually not being kind enough to Max.
That'd be like the only thing that would...
Yeah, now I feel bad. And he was given the minimum fine for that, and neither owners ever faced any real consequences for the deaths that their negligence caused.
Horrific.
Yeah, real bad stuff. And I'm trying to remember like what we learned of that in school, because everything, as I was researching it, everything was like so shockingly horrible that I can't remember like what I learned at any point other than that a fire happened.
I think eventually it was probably used as a case for workers' rights, and
that's true. We're gonna hear about that in a second, actually.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Continue.
But it's weird but it's weird that this woman's name never came up. Like, we just never learned her name.
And this is the part where I was texting everyone being like, can you believe this? How do we not know who this woman is? Like, she should be on money. So this is incredible. So let's get into her.
Yeah, let's dive into not that. No more sad fire stuff. Okay, so her name, Frances Perkins. Allie, I know you know her now, but Melissa, had you ever heard of her?
Nope, I have not.
Look at that. I don't know how much Allie told you, but we'll see.
I didn't say anything because I thought...
amazing.
I thought we were going to listen to the episode.
I know, and I thought I was going to edit the episode. I was like, I'll learn all about it.
Oh, no.
Wrong.
But now we're here.
Yeah,
we're here, baby.
Now, get your pens and pencils out. It's time to take the notes. So Frances Perkins is a singularly important historical figure, yet very few know about her. Her impact has had a lasting effect on literally every single American. Frances was the primary architect of the New Deal, which was championed as President FDR's solution to the Great Depression. She was in every respect a self-made woman who rose from humble New England origins to become America's leading advocate for industrial safety and workers' rights. Can you tell that I lifted that bit from an article? Like, not how I've written anything else. So the day of the fire, Frances was visiting a friend in Washington Square Park and just happened to be there and happened to witness it.
That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she was actually already an advocate for poor and working class people. And then this incident, like, just made her... I have it written down here like this, and I said this last time that I wasn't going to say it, but it lit a fire under her. There's really no way to say it. It's
Okay.
but it really did. I can't think of a better idiom for it.
No, it works.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's what you got to say.
Honestly, though, I'm going to go on, like, one of my weird spiritual things, but, like...
Okay.
Everything happens for a reason, and what a gigantic tragedy. But it ended up creating... Frances happened to be there at the moment and witness it, and then from that, she created so much good that lasts till today. Like,
Yeah.
it would have been amazing if this was able to happen, like, without the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. Like, everything happens
Yeah.
for a reason. Like, if you can look back at things and be like, okay, some good did come out of such a horrific event. Like, it's just interesting that because she happened to be there when this happened, she was able to create all these incredible things because of it. So,
Yeah.
or in spite of it, I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I
God
agree
works
with
in
that.
mysterious ways.
There is actually a spiritual thing that I added into it because I started listening to the audiobook of the book that I recommended you last time we recorded. It's an 18-hour audiobook, so I did not finish it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I always kind of thought audiobook. I was like, oh, audiobook, that's so easy. Like, you're just like listening to a podcast and then it's done. But it seems like it's actually just as hard as reading a book.
It's just as hard as
I was like, oh yeah, you know what? This time I could listen to the book. I could put more stuff in. I put like 3 extra facts in there. It was way too long. But there is like a spiritualism thing from the book that I got. So, and I know last time you read her horoscope, right?
Did I? That sounds a lot like me.
It sounds like something you would do.
But it was like too accurate. It was like crazy how
Yeah, it was, like,
accurate
dead
it was.
on.
So
Oh, interesting. I'll have to do that.
I don't remember what she is,
Sign
but
she
yeah,
is.
maybe
Yeah, I'll
maybe
look
you'll do
into
that again.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
All right, let's see. Okay, so the fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory was, she later proclaimed, the day the New Deal was born. So that's like speaks exactly to what you were saying,
Yeah.
like visiting that or seeing that happen made her create
the
the fucking
catalyst
New
for
Deal.
change. Yeah.
It's crazy. In response to the fire, a citizens' committee on safety was established to recommend practices to prevent further tragedy in the city's factories. And Frances Perkins was that group's executive secretary. And by that time, a recognized expert in the field of worker health and safety. She served as expert witness, investigator, and guide, leading legislators on inspections of the state's factories and work sites. The commission's work resulted in the most comprehensive set of laws governing workplace health and safety in the nation. These new laws became a model for other states and the federal government.
Wow.
So sweet.
Yeah,
That's so
crazy.
cool. She just made really good laws and they were like, okay, let's do this everywhere.
Which is crazy because I think we spoke about last time. At this point, women couldn't even vote, right?
Yeah. She was working in government. I think she was able to vote when she was 40.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's like a fact.
Whoa.
Right.
I wouldn't put that as like an actual fact, but I'm pretty sure she was almost 40.
Yeah, so
Right.
she was drafting laws that the president was putting into effect, and she wasn't even allowed to vote on them at this
That's
point.
Yeah.
insane.
wild. Yeah.
I don't know why I gave like all this like detailed stuff on her and then I introduce her as a person, but whatever. Frances Perkins was born Fannie Coralie Perkins in 1880 in Boston. That's like sounds like we haven't talked about her at all yet.
I like it.
She earned a bachelor's degree in chemistry and physics
Wow.
from Mount Holyoke College in 1902. So she's just like one of those people who is constantly working and
Yeah.
constantly trying to make herself better and the world around her better. Like, she's like a one in a generation kind of person,
That's
you know?
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that time, only 3% of women went on to higher education.
Wow.
So she spent her whole life
What?
just like breaking down walls, just doing.
Wow.
It was 1902. Like,
It's not that long ago.
No, that's right. Well, this country has come a kind of long way, but has way more to go.
Totally.
Oh, this was just like a tidbit that I liked. She taught science at a girls' school in Illinois where parents were assured that their daughters would not become intellectuals.
Oh my God.
Like that's
so
the
funny.
time period we're working in, is like women are allowed to go to college, but just until their sophomore year when they find a man for their debutante
get their
ball.
Mrs. degree. Or like their MRS. Yeah. So great. Remember, that was like the whole thing in Mona Lisa Smile. Remember that Julia Roberts movie where she played like a college professor and like all the girls are like, we're only here to like meet a man in college. That's like why we go to college, is like to meet a husband. And then we drop out.
Yeah.
I
Not
mean,
Frances.
Not a good. Not a
I
bad
mean,
point.
listen.
Yeah.
do
Where
what
my
you-
Mona
do what you
Lisa
gotta
Smile
do.
heads at?
Yo, where they at?
But diving back in,
Sorry.
in 19. No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm not the best at what are they called? Transitions. What's the word for it? In 1907, she left teaching and moved to Philly, where she took a job with the Philadelphia Research and Protective Association. She arrived with very little money and nowhere to stay, along with a large number of immigrants and young black women from the South who were easily lured into prostitution at 10-cent lodging houses and fake employment offices. Her job was to pose as a potential victim to get inside and find out where this was happening. So she had to pretend that she was like looking for a job as a prostitute and like figure out like what the pimps, I don't know what the PC term is, but like what the pimps were doing and like
gonzo journalism.
really dangerous work.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
We
that
did it,
woman
like
who
that woman.
who went into the psychiatric hospitals.
Yeah, oh God, what was her name?
Yeah.
She was the first undercover reporter.
Nellie
We did an episode on her.
Bly?
Yeah, Nellie
No.
Bly.
Nellie
Hey!
Bly. Yeah.
I learned that
Yeah.
from Webcrawlers.
Yeah.
And then there was also that American Horror Story season where Sarah Paulson's
Sarah
character does
Paulson.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's based on Nellie Bly.
I bet you it is.
Wow. I love
From
American
our
Horror
podcast.
Story.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Did you watch this season?
I did. I didn't finish it. I've been like on a real
interesting.
X-Files binge, and so I'm having a hard time watching anything else.
I get that. I've never watched X-Files. I actually, which is crazy. I know. I need to
It's
watch
so
it for the
good.
pilot.
That's what I did. I started watching it from the pilot. I'm not joking when I say, like, I'm 30, so the show came out the same year as me. And
God,
I
that's crazy.
truly feel like
Wow.
I have always been meant to see this show. And it's like making me more who I am, because I'm finally
Wow.
I have very quickly adopted the like fan base. I like check the subreddit every day for their stupid little memes.
Oh wow, that's
so
funny.
Oh my God, I love
like
that.
it's such a huge fan base, and I'm like, I discovered the X-Files. Did you guys hear about this show?
Have you heard about this show?
I'm like making it my entire personality. Every date I go on, I'm like, hey, so what do you think of the X-Files?
Are you a Mulder or are you a Scully?
And everyone is one of them. But Allie, if you take anything away from this podcast, before Melissa deletes it, remember. Remember to start the X-Files.
Sabotage.
Okay, I honestly will. Tonight I'm going to start the X-Files.
Oh man, I'm so excited for you.
Okay.
Yeah, skip the Super Bowl. Just do this.
Yeah, I will. X-Files is my Super Bowl.
I love. Yeah, so that job where she was going in and like pretending to be a
Crazy.
prospective prostitute, she only got $50 a week. And she regularly had to pawn and then repurchase her own watch to like get enough money to like get by.
Oh my God.
So
Whoa.
she's like not out for herself in any type of way. Like truly
Wow.
took jobs that weren't good for her, or like
Yeah, she just wanted to help.
Yeah.
she just wanted to help at like with by any means necessary. She was like raised in a house that was Republican too, and so they were all like
Whoa.
not into her.
Oh,
I think
interesting.
like there were other people in the family who I wish I had taken more notes on her like early life, because I'm going to butcher
Yeah.
this, but she did have like positive influences in the house, and obviously they were like cool with her being an independent woman and working and like going to school. But yeah, they were Republican, and she would get into fights with her dad, I think, about it.
Interesting. Because also Republican then is very different from what Republican is now. I think Republican then is more like fiscal than it is the other things.
Hate
Republicans,
The other terrible things
are associated with now.
It's less like hate based back then.
It's less hate
more policy based.
More policy based. But that's interesting that she she just had her own ideals that were completely separate from her family's.
She just everything she saw, she would I think she was very, very empathetic, and so anything she saw that was not right, other people would be like, well, that's not a situation I'll ever be in because I'm not a woman or I'm not black or whatever. But she was like, I don't like seeing suffering anywhere, and I'm going to work my whole life to eradicate it.
Yeah. And that's interesting because she mixed her empathy with fiscal policy, which you'll get into. But her policies were financially bye, you continue.
I was right there with you. I couldn't fill in the blanks, but I know exactly what you're saying.
But you know what I'm saying, but I can't. I can't finish the
That's so funny. After Philly, she moved to New York, went to Columbia University. The focus of her graduate work there was had her surveying the conditions in Hell's Kitchen, known at the time for corruption and poverty.
I used to live there.
So did I. Wait, I lived on 46th and 9th. Where did you live?
I was on 51st and 8th.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
Empanada Mamas.
Empanada Mama. I had Empanada Mama 2 nights ago, actually.
What?
Man. At my friend's birthday party, she got it catered. It was exciting.
Oh, that sounds
cool. Do you feel left out, Allie? You've never lived in New York?
I'm afraid in New York, so you guys have fun.
Have you never been to New York at all?
I've been twice, but I think every time I see things about New York, I'm I'm not cut out for it.
The rats.
That's so funny.
It's just, everyone, I think it's it's too hardcore for me.
Yeah, I'm very hard. That's my vibe. I'm just really hard.
So hard.
I'm hard. I'm intense. So New York.
You have face tattoos for people who can't see.
Yeah, I just cover those up a little bit.
I would just cry a lot and get lost.
You do that for the first couple years. You cry a lot the first couple years, and then you never cry again.
And then they beat it out of you.
Then you're just so intense. Yeah. So that's what happened to Frances. She was working in Hell's Kitchen. Then she moved to Greenwich Village, where she met the future president, Roosevelt, at an afternoon tea party.
Crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. After campaigning for her friend Al Smith, he became the governor of New York, and he appointed her as the first woman on the New York State Industrial Commission. Oh. So, definitely, jumped over a bunch of what she was doing in New York, but she was, working with lots of different people, doing a lot of networky things. The Tea Party was for sure networking. Found the right connections, found men that she could stand behind and do a bunch of stuff and let them take credit for it. So, Al Smith, governor of New York, appointed her. She asked him what made him think to do that, and he said, I've seen you up here, and you don't talk all around the subject the way most women do. You have a man's mind. And she replied, but I only have a good mind, sir. How lovely. Very cool. Not angry, just
right.
Yeah.
Here you go. I don't know.
That's incredible. She's just so even keeled and being actually, it's not gendered. I'm just smart.
Yeah, exactly. But not saying it in a way that's going to make him feel
emasculated.
I'm sorry, did I upset you? Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to be able to.
Yeah, she knew how to get her way to
talk to men without them getting incredibly emotional and frustrated.
Because they're emotional. They're the emotional ones.
They're so emotional.
Yeah, if you've ever seen a Senate or the House.
Oh God. Yeah, I watched the State of the Union the other day. Made my roommate switch over from whatever she was watching, and she was so annoyed that I wanted to watch the whole thing and look at everyone's faces and try to read what was going on. But she had a very cool personality that held her aloof from the crowd. On one occasion, however, she got into it with Alfred P. Sloan, the chairman of the board at General Motors. And that's also his name I know from like a fundraiser, so something on like PBS, like the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation.
P. Sloan. Yeah.
Is it NPR?
Yeah.
What is it?
It could be.
I can hear the voice that it's set in.
Right.
Yeah, what is that? Alfred P.
That's like, I went to the dog park a while back, and I was sitting next to someone who was definitely like a radio personality, and I couldn't, and I texted my dad, and I was like, I think I'm sitting next to Michael Barbaro at the dog park, because I just recognized his voice.
Really?
And then I thought about it more often, and it was Ira Glass. Like,
oh my God, really?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It was cool, but I was like, I can't believe, like, that's what happens. Like, if you see a celebrity, you're at least going to pick someone who, like, kind of looks like them. But I just by voices, I was like,
so crazy.
I can't remember.
I recognize someone by their voice. What is the Stuff You Should Know podcast? They're the guy, one of the hosts, Chuck. Like, I'd been listening to it for years, and like I was out somewhere with friends, like I heard his voice, and I'm like, "Are you the host of a podcast?" He's like, "I am." I'm like, "Oh my God!"
That's so
I didn't know what they
Love
look
that.
like.
Yeah. I hope he asked you if you were the host of a podcast, too.
It's like, this
was pre-Webcrawlers.
Okay. So, but maybe since then he's heard you talk in some public space and was like, oh my God, that's Melissa.
I met
God,
Melissa
that's
once.
her.
He was like too shy. Alfred P. Sloan. She calls him during a United Auto Workers strike. She works very closely with like unions and workers' rights and everything. So she called him in the middle of the night, called him a scoundrel and a skunk for not meeting the union's demands.
Scoundrel and a skunk.
So cool. Like, I know it's just like how people talked in the early 1900s, but I love that.
I like it.
She said, you don't deserve to be counted among decent men. You'll go to hell when you die.
Oh,
She
that's
got
amazing.
heated. She got heated. Like, the way we've described her up to this point, she seems like too good to be true.
Yeah.
But she was a badass. She's a New Yorker.
Yeah.
She'll call men up and tell them to go to hell.
Go to hell. You gotta get angry sometimes. Let's take a quick break for announcements. Webcrawlers has a Patreon to get access to bonus episodes, shout outs, merch discounts, etc. Please go to patreon.com/webcrawlers. You can donate as little as $2 a month to become a patron. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you give us a 5-star review, we will shout you out. And please continue to call our hotline. Mailbag episodes are up and ready for you. We are running short on voicemails because
we're all caught up.
Yeah, we took a break for so long. So please call us. Just say whatever. We love to have your voicemails, whatever they may say. Back to our scheduled program.
This is the spiritual part. Frances once said she had the ability to see auras, which helped her decide which relationships to cultivate. She described the auras she saw as sparks radiating from certain people. And I can confidently say she did not see those on Alfred P. Sloan.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, now I'm intrigued. I mean, I was intrigued this whole time, but now I'm going to look up the zodiac sign.
That was one of the new facts. That was one of the new facts. So that's fair that's the thing that made you think.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And like anytime I've heard people describe aura, I've never heard it described this way.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. Sparks radiating. Yeah. So she may have been a little psychic.
I can see that.
Having earned the cooperation and respect of various political factions, Perkins helped put New York in the forefront of progressive reform. We all know New York now as like an incredibly progressive state, but like she's kind of the reason that it is. Like she put in all this work here. See, she expanded factory investigations, reduced the work week for women to 48 hours, and championed minimum wage and unemployment insurance laws. She worked vigorously to put an end to child labor and to provide safety for women workers. So all that happened like in New York first, and then the rest of the country slowly follows.
That's amazing.
Yeah. By ending child labor, some say that Perkins gave American children the concept of a childhood.
Whoa.
I just think that's so nice. Yeah, because otherwise they were just working. You're born, you go to work, and now kids were able to like cultivate their interests and like get to know themselves as people.
Like things we take for granted today, like minimum wage, like unemployment insurance, like a work week. which I mean, like, I feel like we don't really have a work week. But
yeah, I also like negotiating, reducing it down to 48 hours for women. I'm a woman who works 50 hours a week in New York. So
yeah, I was going to say that one didn't really stand up.
Yeah,
but,
they didn't hold to the laws there.
No child labor, like things that we just take for granted.
Yeah.
These are because of her. It's wild.
That's unreal.
We don't even know her name.
Still, you should actually bleep her name out every time I say it so that she can just stay a secret.
Who is this woman?
Just bleep her the whole episode.
Like she really did not. She did not want to be in the spotlight. Like I'm kind of with her on that. Like, oh, just give all the like. I'm so in awe of people who can like make content, like make a podcast, put it out there, like be on camera every week. Like this is so nerve-wracking for me. I like hate to be perceived. I know people are gonna listen and be like, this girl's voice, this girl laughs too much. Like someone's gonna have some sort of a thought. So I am so like, if it were me, if I was gonna be making anything, I would love to use like a fake name or just like give someone else all the credit. Like I don't want people to look at me.
Well, also it's kind of like true altruism that she's like, I just want to make change. I don't need any of the credit.
And by being like a public figure, she would be politicized. Like people would then like pick things about her. I mean, her personal life, I wasn't going to talk about it at all. Like I wrote like one thing in there, but like she got married to a man who later was diagnosed bipolar, and then I think it's like preeclampsia or something like that. Like she had had like a very late stage miscarriage, twice. And then, so she had one daughter. She had like a really rough life behind all of this. Like she's working super hard, but she's also like
has her own shit going on.
Yeah. And she worked with some like women's health center too, like after she lost her baby for like other women who were dealing with the same stuff. Like she had too many hours in the day.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And she always seems to turn tragedy into something like useful.
Yeah. That's so true. So she's very inspiring. Back into my long thing here. During the Depression, before FDR was elected president, he was the governor of New York, and he promoted Perkins to state industrial commissioner. Perkins and FDR worked together to create things like unemployment insurance and the nation's first jobless relief program, as well as calls for an 8-hour workday and 48-hour week. Spoiler alert, FDR won the 1932 election in a landslide, in great part because of his promise of the New Deal. Just because maybe we all haven't taken high school history in a while, I was just going to briefly gloss over what the New Deal was again. The New Deal had 3 goals: relief, recovery, and reform. Relief meant the president wanted to help those in crisis immediately by creating jobs, breadlines, and welfare. Recovery was aimed at fixing the economy and ending the Depression. And reform was President Roosevelt's objective of finding the sources of the Depression and creating a plan so that it would never happen again. Bummer there. It for sure has. Like relief, recovery, okay. Reform, we have a lot to go on. But he did his best. Also, this might be obvious to everyone else, but it took me a moment to realize the New Deal is a card-playing term, like just being dealt new cards.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's what I hate the term Green New Deal because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I get that they're trying to be like, this is like the New Deal, but like about the environment. But like, if you think about the words together, like we don't get a New Deal with the environment. Like, we have to work with what we have.
Yeah. Can't just get a new set of cards.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys have to think about, like, I get it's fun to name things after things, but it doesn't make any sense. So that's my soapbox moment about, I like the Green New Deal, I just don't like what it's called. So FDR asked Perkins to be his Secretary of Labor, making her the first woman to ever serve as a cabinet member for any administration in the history of the United States.
Wild.
Look at us go. Women can do it. This also, fun fact, made her the first woman in history to be in line for the presidency itself.
Oh,
So
right.
if like 4 people died,
Right.
she would be the president.
That's insane.
But those 4 people didn't die, and she was not the first woman president.
And by this time, she could vote. 1920, the 19th Amendment happened. So by this time, I guess she could vote.
yeah, and by then she was like, "Well, I don't need to vote. I make all the laws.
Yeah, I make the laws. Yeah.
I do it."
Yeah. Life hack: if you can't vote, make the laws.
Make the laws yourself.
That's great.
Be the change.
So he offered her this job as Secretary of Labor, but before she said yes, she said, "I thought he ought to know if I'm going to be there, I want to get something done." And when I got there, I read him my list. First, relief essential, some form of unemployment insurance, a minimum wage, a shortened work week, old age insurance, which is what we know as Social Security today.
Wow.
Deliberate action at the center of government that the Constitution could be stretched to promote the general welfare. Oh, yeah. She fucking created the Social Security.
Wow.
1935, I think. She was like, and that was something, I don't know if I have this written in, I don't think I do. She was given like 6 months to make that happen because of, like campaigning and all other things that are going on. Europe had like decades to figure out Social Security, and she had 6 months.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
All while like she's at home with like a kid having had a miscarriage, a bipolar husband, and they're like 6 months to figure out Social Security.
Yeah. Yeah. She just worked nonstop. So he goes, yes, you can do it, but the blood will be on your own head. AKA, if it didn't work, he would blame her. So he was like, I'm not going to give you credit if it does work, but if it doesn't work, I'm going to throw you under the bus.
Oh my God.
So she accepted the job because he said she could work on her list. Privately, FDR was Perkins' biggest fan, but publicly he played things differently. He would say, if you get away with it, I'll be your sponsor. If you don't, I've never heard of you. Really
so
good friend. Yeah, really cool guy. FDR has a lot of positives, but that's an annoying thing.
Yeah.
So she really had to pave her own way in many regards, even with the support of the president. In office, she would outline what she wanted him to do. Then she would ask him to repeat it back to her. Then she would repeat it again. And if it was important enough, she would ask him to write it down. She said this also works with 10-year-old boys.
That's so funny.
Wow.
I mean,
she literally like held his hand through this presidency.
It was like she was president and he was like a figurehead, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, and the other day I was listening to the episode where you mentioned that this one got deleted at the start, and you were talking about like different possible episodes. Woodrow Wilson was really sick with like pneumonia or the flu or something during his presidency. And his wife ended up being the president for a while, but like no one knew about it. Yeah, so you guys should do an episode on that.
Whoa.
That's
Or
crazy.
even just like a mini-sode.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was just like, okay, I guess I have to do, because he, I think, was pretending not to be sick, so like every decision had to be made like
she like
behind
weekend
closed
at
doors.
Bernie's him.
Yeah, I think that's
He's
exactly
like
what
pale
happened.
and like
That's what
sweating.
that movie's
Like,
based on. Yeah.
President wife. Yeah.
But yeah, another unknown woman of history.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. Okay. As Secretary of Labor, Perkins worked hard on many aspects of government. Ushering in the New Deal meant designing programs for the American public, and at the time, immigration was a facet of the Department of Labor. So she had a lot on her plate. She was not only like working with the Department of Labor, but I don't even know what the Department of Immigration is. That just what it's called? Department of Immigration?
Yeah, probably.
But
Sounds
she had like
right.
6 jobs.
Sounds good to me.
Sure.
Who knows? I'm hoping none of the web crawlers are like too deep into like government, and they're
Doubt it.
Or like someone's like fact checking everything I've said. Like, this girl's an idiot. Oh, one of the most successful aspects of the New Deal was the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, which I had not heard of before researching this episode. Have either of you heard of the CCC?
No.
The CCC was a voluntary government work relief program that ran from 1933 to 1942 in the United States for unemployed unmarried men ages 18 to 25, and eventually expanded to the ages of 17 to 28. the CCC led a greater public awareness and appreciation of the outdoors and the nation's natural resources. She facilitated the organization of 1,300 camps for young men to live in, while they created 800 state parks and planted over 2 billion trees. By the end of the year, 600,000 men had sent home $60 million to their families.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, why don't we have that anymore? Like, I get they had to stop to do World War II. They needed them to go be abroad. But like, that war ended and we didn't like start it back up. But that would be like, that's why we have, she's a big reason why we have state parks.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder
She did
if
too much.
if like AmeriCorps is a similar concept. I'm trying to think of who AmeriCorps was created under. Was it Clinton?
And there's like the Peace Corps. Is that the same or is that a different organization?
The Peace Corps is international. AmeriCorps is
I
domestic.
see.
I did a year of AmeriCorps, but you can
that's
go
awesome.
for like different factions. So there is like they call it better than outdoor, but there's like outdoor. You can go to like hospitals or you can work in like the education sector, and basically you like donate a year of your time and you're paid like. Are you paid? I don't think you're paid. It's like a year of service, but like I didn't take them because I don't need them, but they can give you like housing and food stamps and stuff.
Wow.
And you basically do a year of service. And I think that there is an outdoor one where you like can work at state parks and stuff like that. But I wonder if it's like just
wow.
based off her concept.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, because I'm like, the CCC should still be a thing. Like,
Yeah.
try to like reverse the damage we've done to this planet. And
Yeah.
like, the state parks are like one of the main reasons people like America. So let's not let
seriously.
them go. Like, I don't know. Let's not let them all catch on fire, for example, which they
Yep.
are. It's such a crazy world we live in now where we're like, wow, you guys really could have done a lot before we got to this point.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little existential there. I'm gonna move back into to some nice things that Frances did. She was also responsible for opening up the United States to refugees from Nazi Germany and helped over 250,000 people immigrate to the United States.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
Just
incredible.
just adding to her roster. And like, I didn't finish the audiobook. There's more about her life.
This is just like the beginning of what she did.
This
It's
is like
insane.
so surface level. Like, I feel like I've worked harder to write this episode than I ever have. And that's how she worked like her entire, like every minute of every day was like this much. While Perkins was campaigning for shorter hours for workers, she was working 15-hour days. She got very little sleep and sometimes would collapse in bed and stay there for 2 weeks while her daughter brought her food.
Oh my God.
She would use this
Whoa.
time to recharge before diving back into work. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
So I guess she did need the like full reset.
Yeah,
like she couldn't
like,
go
work
at this
herself
level
to
all the time.
exhaustion.
Yeah. Oh, and just because I mentioned her daughter, I wrote in underneath that about her husband. So she was married, but she kept her own name, and that was like radical at the time. And she actually had to defend her right to keep her maiden name in court.
Whoa.
That's so sick. What a girl
Yeah,
boss.
like all the
Yeah.
stuff that she was dealing with, and she had to fucking go to court so that she could keep her own name.
that's so cool. She's so
I wish
cool.
I like, yeah. She's so cool. In June of 1938, the passage of the Fair Labor Standards Act created a federal minimum wage, a 40-hour work week, an 8-hour day, and restrictions on child labor. In 5 years, nearly the entire wish list that she brought the president in order for her to accept the role of Secretary of Labor had become the law of the land. She had accomplished all but one of the items on the agenda that she had presented to the newly elected president in February of 1933, universal access to health care, which we still don't have.
Wow.
I guess kind of, right? Like Obamacare,
Yeah.
we kind of have it, but it's still like
it's
very
not-
expensive.
Very
and,
shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have plenty of friends who don't have health insurance because they're like, well,
It's crazy.
it's easier. Like maybe I can just like, you know, if I do go to a hospital, then
Right.
I'll get like a grant or something.
No,
like,
everyone's like, I'll just do a GoFundMe.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think like after your episode, there was like a girl from Norway on, and she was like, everything's free. What are you talking about? And I was like, no,
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's like a million other things about Frances, but again, couldn't finish the audiobook. Could you imagine if I tried to read the actual book? I wouldn't have gotten nowhere. So this is the end of this. Frances Perkins suffered a stroke and died at Midtown Hospital in New York City on May 14th, 1965 at the age of 85.
wow,
So, a lot of time. She had a lot of time to make a lot of
she
stuff
lived
happen.
a pretty long life. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she had too much to do.
What an amazing lady.
And say this last part because this is really cute.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm dedicating this episode to my dad. He told me about Frances a few years ago. I used to work at a show called Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, where she would do it's like a political satire.
Yeah.
And they were very open about us like pitching things. So my dad told me about Frances Perkins. He read this book, what was it called? The Woman Behind the New Deal.
Yeah.
And he was like, you gotta get that on the show. Like, people need to know about her.
Yeah.
And thought that it would be like a really good act for the show. So I was like, okay, I'll pitch it. And like, years went by, I procrastinated, the show got canceled. And so I like wasn't able to ever do it. And I felt bad. I was like, damn, I probably should have like done something about it when I could. And then with the Patreon episodes, and there were some of the first ones, people were doing things like about like that connected to their own lives. Like it was like a murder in their hometown and something else. So I was like, I should pick a topic that means something to me.
Yeah.
So one, I'm doing something for my dad, and two, I recently unionized with my workplace.
Amazing.
Whoa, congrats.
Thank you. We're in contract negotiations right now.
Nice.
It's going slow, but apparently that's how it goes. But yeah, so like her connection to like workers' rights was something that I was
That's
like really excited to learn
amazing.
more about.
Do you ever feel bad that if you had pitched this on time, maybe more people would have known about her from Full Frontal?
Wow, you know what? Great question. Yeah, I feel awful. No, because to be completely honest, I enjoy listening to web crawlers more than I enjoyed
That
watching.
is true.
that show.
We're kind of like the
Wow.
Full Frontal of podcasting. So,
Yeah. And to be fair, I loved that show. I loved working there, but like I
love
worked on
her.
every
She's
single
so funny.
episode. So
Wow.
at a certain
Wow.
point, I was like, I don't think I can like
you get
keep
burned out.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't want to like.
Totally.
I went like full bimbo for a couple of years because I was like, I have to like research all these things and like know every single person in government and
Oh
know
my
all the
God.
horrible things that are happening. And so I didn't want to know anything. But this year, my goal is to be a bimbo who reads.
Yes,
So,
that's my goal too. It hasn't happened yet, but it's my
Nice.
goal.
yeah, there's actually, I made a vision board at a friend's house, and
Whoa.
she had all these like magazines from the 80s and the 90s, and there's this picture of Dolly Parton reading a book, and it's so cute, and that's what I wanted. I was like, that's a bimbo who reads, so that's exactly what I
Well, she
am
has the
trying to be.
Imagination Library, for those who don't know, and she's donated like millions and millions of books to
Yeah.
public schools all around the world and funded people to go to college. Like, she's incredible.
Yeah, and she also like funded one of the COVID vaccines.
Yeah, and she like created Moderna. So
Dolly Parton is
She
the Frances
created
Perkins
Moderna.
of today.
yeah, she is basic, but Dolly Parton and Frances Perkins are essentially the two most important women in America.
I would agree.
A portion of the Patreon for this episode is going to go to rememberthetrianglefire.org/donate. And if you want to donate as well, you can go there. Cassidy, thank you for including that in the doc. We really appreciate that. And we like to donate where we can and when we can. Cassidy, if people want to follow you, see your work, anything like that? If you want to be followed, where can people do that?
It's like, don't look at me.
Yeah, I know you don't want to be perceived.
Don't
but
follow me.
I deleted my Twitter. I only post on close friends on Instagram. I have a website. I guess if anyone wants like VFX or graphics work, they can go to CassidyRouth.com. I haven't updated it in a while, and so I don't like how it looks, but
no, I
think
do. I think I went to it after our episode, and you're an amazing artist. So we will put that in the show notes as well if anyone wants to commission some work. Cassidy, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it so much. We will delete this immediately after signing off.
No,
We'll do this again in 2 months.
We will see you next week to record again. See you next week. Thank you so much, Cassidy. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank
you
you.
Bye.
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 An Erios original.
Powered by Acast.